This week on Stogie Geeks Shorts, Will and I talk about Salomone-sized cigars. We're going to cover offerings from Aloha, Quesada, Paul Garmerian, and more, so stay tuned. This is a Security Weekly production. Havana Cigar Club, located in Warwick, Rhode Island, is a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo. Welcome, everyone, to Stogie Geeks Shorts. That's right, this week we're talking about our top 5 all-time favorite Salomone-sized cigars. I'm your host, Paul Asdorian, broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island. On the lines via Skype, Mr. Will Cooper is with us. Welcome, Will.
Hey, what's going, Paul?
I'm excited about this segment.
Me too.
I love the Salomone cigars, and I think we should first start by defining what a Salomone-sized cigar, because as I was looking for my top 5, I wanted to make sure I stuck to the traditional Salomone size, which we described as having that bulb being over 6 inches in length.
Yep.
Is that pretty much it? I mean, it's really like almost a 58 or a 60 at the bulb, tapering
57.
down.
They go to about they go to a 57 at the bulb, and then they have that nozzle on the footer.
Right. There is a nozzle. I call it a nipple, but nozzle is a much better way of describing it.
Yeah. For the most part, I stuck with it. I made one deviation, but I think it was an exception. But in general, yeah, it's a very difficult cigar to roll. So you don't see a lot of these on the market, and they usually are in more limited fashions.
Yeah, a lot of manufacturers just don't even make a Salomone-sized cigar because of the high production costs. Rollers can only put out so many cigars a day. It's a very difficult cigar to roll.
Absolutely, it requires a certain skill. So they tend to be more expensive because of the labor costs, and that's so you tend to see them, and they tend to they originated in Cuba. It's a size that's come from Cuba, but you do tend to see them from time to time.
Yeah, and several of the ones on my list are limited editions, like you said, Will. It's really hard to find a regular production Salomone that would make a top 5 list, certainly. I mean, some of my ones on here you can find more easily than others, but this was a difficult one to put together to say, hey, go find this cigar at a reasonable price that's readily available. Just Salomone cigars in general aren't available, one, at a reasonable price because of the high production costs. These are all pretty expensive cigars. And 2, they're all somewhat limited. So,
yeah, and in fact, if you want to play along at home, try to look at some companies that have never done a Salomone, and there's some big companies out there you'd be surprised about that haven't done it.
Right. So I'm going to go backwards in order on my top 5 list for my top 5 Salomones of all time. I pulled very heavily from the Stogie Geeks archives, and you can find links to almost all of the cigars on my list and Will's list as well. I think it's just one that we're missing, and I'll upload it so we can link to it. So,
yep.
Number 5 for Paul, for me, is the Aloha Limitada Salomone. This was a very limited run. I think I've only ever smoked 2 of these in my life, maybe. And they were just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the flavor on this cigar was great. But I only ever saw like 2 or 3 of these cigars in my life. And I think they were sent to us actually by Aloha, and it was an awesome cigar. Have you smoked this one, Will?
Yeah, I have. It's very good. In fact, I learned about this cigar through your show before I joined it. That's how good a cigar. Now, I fell in love with the Robusto blend they based off of that, which has been a little more readily available. But this cigar, I mean, Aloha is small production to begin with. Very good cigar. I've only smoked it once, so. It's
a white whale. I don't know if there's any like left out there in the world, unless you have it in your humidor, right?
But yeah, small company and small company on top of a small production. I don't remember what the production counts were, but they were limited. They were out about 3.5 years ago.
Yep. Number 4 on my list is the Paul Marion Symphony 20th limited edition Salomones.
Oh.
Now, this is one that it does say limited edition, but you can find these around. These are around. You can find these.
They're ongoing production.
Yeah.
Is what I've seen of them. But probably not as massive quantities as some of the other Paul Garmarian's lines.
I mean, they're amped up a little in strength. I find, like, if you compare this to the Elohio I talked about, I find the Symphony 20th to be a little amped up in strength, but just a fantastic cigar, very consistent. I always enjoy smoking this cigar. I think I bought a box of them, actually.
Yeah, they. I mean, I got another cigar. I'll talk about it a little later, but this is a cigar I got introduced to from Stogie Geeks as well.
Yes.
That's a hint that you're going to hear about the cigar again.
There you go.
Yep.
Another one of my favorites, and the cigar that I'm smoking here today, is the La Aurora Puro Vintage 2003. This was a limited release from La Aurora. You can find these, maybe. I know... well, I should say the Paul Marion Symphony 20th you can find at Mr. J's Havana Smoke Shop. The La Aurora Puro Vintage 2003 you can find at next door at the Havana Cigar Club as well. Now, the price tag is hefty on this one. This is like a $20 cigar. I actually bought a bundle online a long time ago for way less than $20 a cigar, and I'm still smoking through that bundle now. But these are smoking awesome now, and this is from their Puro Vintage series, which uses some really old tobacco, some vintage tobacco in this series. They did a 2004. They've done several releases in the Puro Vintage. The 2003 is my favorite, and I think they're all pretty close to a Salomone. Some of you may call more of a Perfecto. The 2003 was definitely a more traditional Salomone.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would say, too. I mean, I think that 2003 is one of the epic smokes to come out of La Aurora. It was a tough act to follow this. Some of the other ones, the 4, the 5, and the 6, I actually like the 6 a lot, but it's up against a very epic smoke in that 3.
The strength and flavor profile, I mean, it's a solid medium, but it's tons of flavor. And we say that about cigars we rank very high, right? The next one, number 2 on my list, Perdomo Edition de Silvio Salomone Natural. This is this a Connecticut wrapper on this? I think it is.
Usually he's I believe it is a Connecticut. I believe it's a Connecticut on that.
It's a really light wrapper.
Yeah.
We have a picture of the coffin that it comes in. Again, this is a pretty expensive cigar in that $17 to $20 range, but this is actually a mild cigar with tons of flavor. So this is, I wouldn't even call this medium. This is like somewhere between mild and medium, and it just has tons and tons of flavor. They're actually out of these next door because Brenda actually reminded me of this smoke. I'm like, oh, that was an epic one, and they don't have any more. I smoked them all. So me and like one other guy, we like bought them all up, and that was it.
You know, I actually have one of these. I have a coffin row in one of my humidors, so I do need to smoke it.
You should, yeah, because it's not really amped up in strength, Will. So,
yeah. It's saying on here it's a Nicaraguan origin, but again, we didn't have time to confirm that one, so we apologize.
Yeah, but it is a really light wrapper.
It's very light, yeah. One. Yep.
And my favorite, number 1, drumroll please, is obviously, if you've been paying attention to the show, the Davit Off Royal Salomones. This is the most expensive cigar on my list, ranking in at around $50 per cigar. This is a really big Salomone. Is this an 8, Will?
I don't know if it's an 8.
7 1/4, something like that.
It is a very, I mean, it is a very big Salomones. Let's put it like that. For it's very interesting because that cigar, I think it has a price point. I want to say about $55.
Yep.
And it's actually, yes, it's an 8 1/4 by 57.
8 1/4 by 57. Yeah, it's gigantic. It is just epic. The flavors that you get from this. It is a journey to smoke this cigar. I don't know how many that I'll buy or recommend that people buy at the $50 to $55 price point, but you got to put the cigar on your bucket list because it is just an epic experience. Love this cigar.
I've only smoked it once. It did not make my list because I tried to have ones I smoked multiple times. But I did smoke that on our 3-year anniversary show, episode 118, and you could see my reaction, how good that cigar is.
Yes. So that rounds out my top 5 list. Will, over to you.
All right. So interesting. I started mine off with a small batch limited Salomones as well. And in fact, I have one of these in that coffin row of the humidor for you. I just haven't sent it.
Yeah, I can't wait to smoke it.
But it's by Duran Cigars, and it is the Roberto P. Duran Signature Santo Cardenas Edition. So this cigar is a tweak, I would say, off the original Duran signature blend. What they did is they had their master roller, Santos Cardenas, who they brought into Nicaragua, and he actually tweaked the blend to his liking. He put it into actually he did the rolling himself to this and put the cigars into a coffin. All we know about this is it's a big Salomone, 7 3/4 by 57. It's a little more sharper point, I think, but it has that bulb on the footer as well. But I think this cigar really clicked in the Salomone, where you get those flavor transitions that a Salomone's going to bring as it kind of tapers up, so to speak. It was great construction on this cigar as well. Like I said, they only did 3,000 cigars, but it was a limited run. But one thing about we didn't really talk about is Salomone construction. Being that's a very difficult cigar to roll. There's a lot of Salomones that don't construct well. This one, and all the ones we have on the list does.
What was that, Will? Sorry.
Yeah, this one has. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one has great construction, is what I said.
Awesome.
Okay. At number 4, I put a Cuban cigar, and it's the Kaaba Salomone there. It's another big cigar. So it's a 57 ring gauge at the bulb it has. And it's interesting because you had reviewed this cigar, Paul, going back about episode 29. So that's almost 4 years ago. And what I get from this cigar, it's the quintessential Cuban experience that I just get from this cigar.
Absolutely.
It's great. There's it's got a little more spice towards the end of this cigar, I find, but which I was a little surprised about. But overall, it is one of my probably go-to Cuban cigars when I can get my hands on these. These are kind of, I think, again, a little more ongoing in terms of you can get these.
Right. Yeah, if you're going to buy Cuban cigars, this one's usually readily available wherever you happen to be purchasing your Cuban cigars. It's got that quintessential balance of cedar and earth that gives it that Cuban-esque feel, and it just presents that really well. It's a good medium-bodied. It doesn't make a whole lot of change-ups, but it's a very, very enjoyable cigar to smoke.
Yep. No, I agree. Number 3 is kind of a forgotten about Salomone, but it really became one of my favorites. It's the Casada Cudita Daga. And what this cigar, if you go back about 4 years ago, Casada came out with a bunch of cigars to kind of drum up support for Cigar Rights of America. So, the fight against the FDA was going back even then. And in each of the boxes, basically, they kind of used that as an opportunity to get people to sign up for Cigar Rights of America. There was a form to register on there. And they did a series of real weird-shaped cigars. They did one, the Molotov, which has the shape of a Molotov cocktail. They did a Howitzer, which was like a big 6x60 cannon type cigar, and then they did this Dago, which was a Salomone. Now, what was interesting about this cigar is they based it off one of my favorite Casada cigars, which is the 35th anniversary blend. And I'll tell you, it's just, again, a great cigar. It's got those chocolate and coffee notes, nice mocha flavors. Gets a little more, some of that spice does build up towards the end. It really kind of, you get that nice nub and a lot of times with that cigar. So, even with that, sometimes with the Salomones, they get very soft at the end, but this one, I tend to have a nice nub. I have these still lying around.
I think I may have one kicking around in my humidor too.
Yeah.
I definitely have a Molotov.
Yeah, I won a football pool during the time this cigar came out. And the losers had to buy the winner a cigar in the football pool, and I picked this cigar. So I managed to basically scoop up about 14 of these in 2012. Nice. And I still have some of them remaining.
That's awesome.
Yep. Number 2, we talked about the Paul got Marion Symphony 20, Salomones. I think Paul did a good job at explaining that. This was another cigar that when I joined the show, it was kind of like one of those Stogie Santa, you have to smoke this cigar kind of deal. And it was fantastic. Really, I've smoked a lot more of these since, and I've just really come to enjoy this cigar. Again, coming out of the Davit Off factory, great construction, and more readily available. So these aren't. They make them, and you can get them at your Paul Garmerian shop.
I was surprised at your number 1, Will.
Oh, yeah. And I went and I debated putting this on there or not, but this is it's such an unusual cigar. It kind of, I admit, I skirted the definition with this one. It is the Tatuaje Apocalypse. In my opinion, it is not a traditional Salomone by any means. It's kind of got a Salomone type of shape. It's a 5.5, and it goes 52 at the bulb. But what was unique about this cigar is the Connecticut broadleaf wrapper. Now, folks may have heard of the Tatuaje Anarchy, which has a very similar shape, more of a small Salomone. I don't know. The Anarchies were very, very good. I don't think they aged out like this cigar aged out. There's not a lot of Connecticut broadleaf Salomones out there.
No, there isn't.
And to me, this one is and it was a shop exclusive to Smoke Inn, and I hesitated as well. But again, this was one of in my opinion, it's the best shop exclusive cigar that ever came out.
Wow.
It's in my opinion, it's probably in my top 3 with Tatuaje of all time. Great cigar. I mean, I just the flavors just continue to get richer on this thing. I love the way this cigar draws as well. It's just got a little resistance on it, so you don't get that looseness from the Salomone. But yeah, did I take a little liberty with this? I did, but it was that good a cigar that I decided to give this one my honor here.
Would you, speaking of Tatuaje and Salomones, would you see, this is saying it's a Figurado, the RC 184?
Yeah, the RC 180, that's the ones
doesn't have the bulb. Doesn't have the bulb.
Doesn't have the bulb.
Yeah, a Figurado will be more uniform in shape. Salomone is a thicker ring gauge towards the foot, and it tapers down towards the head. So yeah. I would call the 184 a Figurado.
But it is a 57. It is a 7.25 by 57. So it's kind of
it is. I'm
trying to remember if there's I think it's hard that one's probably right on the bubble because I don't know how much tapering it does with that.
Right. It does taper slightly.
It does taper slightly, but again, when you look at it, it does have the ball. I mean the nozzle, which I call on there. But we were talking about like Davit Off Art Edition. That's a perfecto. It's very different. Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, I would say the RC 184 is probably an honorable mention in my case.
Yeah,
I had some that were super aged because there was a huge gap in time from when Pete first released those to when he re-released those, and they were equally as good when he re-released those. But the age on that cigar from the original releases, they were amazing.
That cigar, I don't want to say it reminded me of the Kaaba.
But it does. It's very Cuban-esque. Yes.
It's very, I hate using that word, but if I had to look at a Salomone that comes close to that Kaaba, that one comes close.
Right.
It just reminds me, of a lot of the notes I get off that thing. I had an honorable mention was the Debonair Salomones.
Yes. How did that not get on my list?
I've only smoked one of them. That's why I didn't make my list, but it is very good.
Yeah, that should definitely be on my list as well. Yeah. I don't know how that didn't make it there.
Yeah,
definitely. I did buy a box of those, and those are just epic smokes.
Agree. So I mean,
and he only released that in the natural. I know that there may have been some Maduros floating around, but I could never get anyone to give me one.
Yeah, I mean, he did the A size.
He did the A size in the Maduro. I think is where he went with that project. But the natural size is it's weird. It doesn't smoke like a big cigar. Like you don't have to really work at that cigar. That's one that I do smoke pretty regular. I haven't smoked one in a while. That's probably why it hasn't made my list. But
that was a limited run he did of those. I don't think he.
I haven't seen those in like Mr. J Savannah Smoke Shop. You don't see the Salomones.
That was his true limited. So
yeah.
He's got with FDA, you got a little window to bring it back.
That's right. Yeah, please bring that back. It's a great smoke.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that concludes this edition of Stogie Geeks Shorts. Make sure you check out the Stogie Geeks Show every Monday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, stogiegeeks.com/live. And for all the cigar news and reviews, visit cigar-coop.com. Thanks for watching.